Hi, friends. It's Eugene. I'm so glad we're here together today, and I am extremely honored and excited to have a guest by the name of Rio Allen, who is a coach, a healer, and a spiritual homo. And we'll get more into what that means to him and how he's helping and assisting gay men transform pain into purpose. So, hello, Rio. How are you today?
Hi there. Good to be here. I'm doing great.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. So, the way I work, some of you know this who have watched me on camera before with my conversations, is that when I feel led to converse with someone that I think is really walking their talk, so to speak, or has gone through a journey of, again, transforming pain into purpose, working on internal healing, and also giving a platform to be able to assist others through that, I think it's extremely valuable. And it makes me hopeful to know that there are other people like you on the planet, Rio, doing this incredible work. If you don't mind me asking, for you personally, how did the journey shift for you? Because if you want to maybe touch base a little bit of what was, how you were in your life and how, in that pivotal moment, maybe that spark of awareness of, wow, I think it's time to really make a shift and transform my own self into what I feel I can be.
hmm Yeah. Um, I'd say that the life before having some awareness was a life of really seeking for external circumstances and validation to make me feel like I made it, that there was some marker out there that would make me feel like I was complete and whole and worthy. Um, and so I was seeking that a lot in different cities, in different relationships, in different careers, and really kind of spinning out, really. And essentially, it wasn't one particular moment, but a series of moments over time that it was kind of like breadcrumbs that led me towards where I am, because where I am, what I'm doing now is almost like a 180 from where I was and what I was doing with my life and my career, um, let's say 15 years ago. So it kind of had to be, it was like the universe was like, okay, one step in this direction, next step, because I probably would have never said yes to this full transformation. Um, but I'd say the first step happened when I was living in New York, and it was kind of like I'd reached my peak at what I could do externally to start to feel value and worth, and realize that it wasn't working. Working in fashion and beauty, and like, hanging out with what I thought were like the coolest, it's like the cool kids in high school. These are the
Right.
coolest kids on earth. And now I'm hanging out with them and I'm running around with them, and this is not it.
Totally. I relate so much to what you're saying. And I think it's really perfectly of what you said in the sense that it's not necessarily one moment, right? I mean, the journey of life in itself, anyway, especially the spiritual journey of awakening, as we might want to call it, is
Mm-hmm.
that it is movement towards something. And I think for me, that was the same kind of thing. Different paths, different people, yet I also wanted so much outside validation. And I thought if I could become well known or, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, be a part of that cool clique, so to speak, then my worth would be validated because I wasn't able to fully validate that worth within myself, right?
Yeah,
And so, but I didn't even really understand, I think, what that meant though. And I
sure.
think that's part of the evolution of healing and evolving, because without awareness around that, we're kind of on automatic pilot, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point, because I would have never been able to articulate that at the time. And I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
where pain comes in as like a really helpful ally to point us in the right direction, because we could gone so far off track that the pain, as it gets louder or more intense, starts to wake us up to something has to change. Um,
Right.
so I've seen all of the struggles and pains and challenges looking back as, thank God that redirected me. Thank God I didn't go down that path any longer.
Right.
So that's what I think is kind of like the guardrails. If we don't have awareness, or until we do have awareness, is like bumping into things and life not really working out. And that's kind of like going, yeah, not this way, this way.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because there were many times in my life where I could relate it to feeling like I was out in a stormy sea, like in the ocean. And
Mm-hmm.
I did have a kind of a lifesaver, right? I was holding on to something. And I knew that there was, if I could get to the ship, if I could get to the island, if I could get to the mainland, or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
I would say to myself, why do I feel like I'm lost out, scattered around, and cannot find my way? And it's interesting because something you just touched on, it's that pain that we feel, we can either deny it, ignore it, project it, become the victim, or stay stuck in it,
Mm-hmm.
or listen to it. And I think many of us are waking up to that, of listening to saying, you know what? I don't have to stay in this,
Mm-hmm.
especially within gay men and the gay community. As a gay man myself, again, in my 20s, especially, I moved to LA. It was a fun time, but I was so lost, and I was
Mm-hmm.
so, hurting. And I had no idea who I really was, other than what I was told to be or what I shouldn't be.
Right.
If you're gay, my story was, well, I'm gay, I'm going to hell, and no one will love me. I'm not worthy of love. So therefore, I better find love however I can. And if that
Mm-hmm.
means sacrificing the worth of my body, my mind, my spirit,
Yep.
but as long as I could do that, I felt safe. But
Mm-hmm.
then that never lasts, and it implodes, don't you think? And what do you say to someone that comes to you and says, I know my life has to change. I know that I'm better than what I'm giving myself, or what I continue to, as I say, it's like that cycle where you just keep repeating the pattern. You're
Mm-hmm.
stuck kind of in it, possibly. What is the first step, in your opinion, from the work that you've done? What do you think is the first thing to do? It might be different for everybody, but is there a reoccurring theme that you see?
Well, like just the story that you shared about your personal experience, and like so well connected the dots between what you were told about yourself, and then the expectation that we have that we won't be able to have what we truly want, and that we're not worthy on some level of having things that other people can have. And so there's this expectation of always being disappointed, of always not getting what we want or what we need. And so there's kind of this feeling of like, well, fuck it. At least I can get, a high from a night out, or at least I can get a little bit of connection from a hookup or something like that. Those are obvious patterns that we see in the community a lot. And so for me, it's like recognizing, okay, what are the roots? What are the root causes of whatever experience you're having that sucks, that you want to get out of? What are the roots of that? Because it won't change by trying to change the patterns itself. There will keep coming back, and it will come out in some other form of control or low self-worth
Right.
actions that you might be taking. So the first step is like starting to get clear of like, whoa, what are the roots of this tree that I'm sitting in and not really wanting to be in?
Mm, I like that. Yeah. I like what you just said. That's so true. And as we mentioned, every journey is different. Every story is different, even though it might be an overall kind of energy within our community be based on, again, what we've been told, or not. I mean, I have met, and I'm sure you have too, of course, I've met incredible people that didn't have a lot of trauma as a child,
Mm-hmm.
and were told being different is beautiful, and then they come out and they don't seem to have as many things to clear up, and that,
Mm-hmm.
but like we said, every journey, and we don't always know why this is occurring. Of course, within spirituality, within what resonates for me is that I came here to clear things up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
my perception of it at this moment is that I might have brought it on from a past life, if we choose to believe in that. Or not only that, but I keep getting through a lot of the things that I'm healing is that I'm healing it from my ancestral line. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's beautiful. But see, for many years, I was so angry because all I wanted as a child was to feel unconditionally loved like we all do. And I had such joy and I had such light, which is now what I'm able to experience because I'm allowing that for myself and I'm not playing the victim in it anymore. But I had to, it's like the onion probably, right, Rio? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
here's the core root possibly of it in the onion, right? And all around it, you got to peel it all away.
Mm-hmm.
And at least that's how I've been visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's never, I mean, tell me what you think about this. Is there ever really in your perception, an ending of it? I think there's always more layers, or what do you think about that?
It's a yes, and it's both, because I think that there are particular roots, core wounds that can be healed in the sense that they can be moved beyond, and that the expressions, the negative expressions of those core wounds don't have to continue to exist. So in that sense, there is some completion. And I'm speaking from experience, both my own experience and working with other people, that there is completion. And I think it's important to recognize both that also we're, as long as we're alive, we're going to be learning lessons. We're going to be healing wounds. We get wounded every single day in small ways and sometimes in big ways. So there will always be things that will be there for us to heal, and through that healing evolve and grow. That's for me the purpose of being here. And so without the wounds, without the pains, there wouldn't be any growth and evolution, and it would kind of be boring. um, but
Totally.
I remember a time in my healing where, the healing around this particular area of my life around sexuality, um, that it did feel endless. It was many, many years. And I really started to feel like, okay, I think I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And that was kind of bleak because it was
Right.
painful. It wasn't generative. It wasn't like I'm manifesting all the things that I want in my life. It was like everything is falling apart constantly. And as soon as one thing falls apart, then the next thing falls apart. And I was just really like a lot of bravery to keep stepping forward to say, okay, there's got to be some resolution here at some point. And there has been. And then the fruits of all of that healing and growth then do come back. And for myself, that's like, it's been like a waterfall all of the sudden. And it was the things that I was like crossing my fingers and hoping like there has to be something on the other side of this. And so now to be on the other side, and to be receiving the fruits of that, and to feel like what I went through is something that can be of value to other people, is just so fulfilling, and it makes all of it worth it.
Wow. I got kind of goosebumps when you were talking because I resonate with that so much. I, for, I think for the last 27 years or so, and when I say that, some of my listeners and viewers know this, but and I'm at a really good healthy place with it now. But my mother passed away when I was 23, and there was a lot of abuse and dysfunction in the home, and she was kind of more of my protector. Yet she had her own codependency and kind of control the environment to keep herself and myself safe. Yet didn't really know how to get out of it. Yet had enough awareness to stand up and say, I'm not going to fully be the victim. But when she passed away so tragically, I felt like my life was over because my full identity, I think, was into her because I really didn't know who I was. And again, she was a loving mother, but also very involved in the church and the church aspect of the Christian church, which I'm not shaming that religion because there's all types of people
Mm-hmm.
that resonate with it. But from my experience, it was, if you're gay, you're just a terrible person. And I never felt that I was a terrible person. Yet with everything that occurred and then the loss, most of my 20s, I just reacted to, I have no idea who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm angry. And I'm going to be somebody, and I'm going to prove I'm going to be somebody, even if I railroad everybody in the process. You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just messy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it was that level of, I had hit rock bottom so many times in a way. I mean, in many ways, I put the image on, though, because that's also what I was taught. So I had this image, yet I was really imploding constantly within it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always searching outside, like you said, whether I was partying or, me, it was majorly codependent, because I just thought if I could be in a relationship and somebody wanted me
Mm-hmm.
that way, then I'd be okay. So for me, I kind of went from relationship to relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then in between that would date. I could never really be alone. And I had that epiphany when I was like 35, because I kind of hit rock bottom for like the third time. And I thought, I've had enough. I don't want this type of pain anymore. I know there's more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I really took time for like 5 years, and I did all this internal healing work. And of course I still am. And then there was more layers of it in 2020 up until now.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, it's when you talked about the waterfall, I just kept thinking about a waterfall that I experienced in Hawaii when I was 19 with my family. And I remember feeling so lost and confused, and there was arguing and there wasn't peace. And I remember being at that waterfall, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be amazing if I was at this waterfall and actually felt free to fully be who I am and to fully feel like there was peace, love, and contentment. Now it's like if I went to that waterfall, which I could, or find another one, I would be like, in it, like that
Fully.
magical moment, like, fully in it, and you're just embracing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of that expressed, I really feel led to ask you this. I, for a long time, and I think other gay men can feel this way, that it's black or white. Well, if you start to work on yourself, you become boring. Or you can't be sexy anymore and experience the pleasure of your body with someone. Or you can't go out and dance anymore. Or whatever it used to be. Because, that's also changed from generations. But in my day, you go out, you feel sexy, you go clubbing, all those kinds of things. And I think that what I've realized is I actually, some of those things I don't care about as much anymore, but then the things that I still do, now I'm authentically can enjoy them without an attachment, what it will be or not be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think about that,
I just think it's like when our pain isn't the thing that's in between us and life, then we get to whatever we're experiencing is like so exciting. I take my dog on a walk and I'm like, oh, look at that sun through the clouds. Or like, I'm not Mary Poppins, but I do,
but it's magical.
I do appreciate life more because I'm not like in this constant thought pattern of like what's going to go wrong or what has been done wrong or, gripping for some control in my life. And I'm able to actually like really appreciate whatever's in front of me. So, I think that the healing process actually, like, I feel sexier than I ever have. And
oh my God,
I feel more alive than I ever have.
It's right, because I remember the days when I was, again, in the story and what I've discussed and shared and outside of myself, feeling like so much trying to prove I'm sexy or somebody think I'm sexy, or at the end of the day, though, feeling like I'm too skinny or I'm not cute enough or I'm not buff enough or they're not going to want me. Always trying to figure out how someone would want me instead of realizing that it was all within me, the worth, the value, the magic. And so now, like you said, I'm in my early 50s and I'm like, feel the most alive, feel the most sexy within who I am from a healthy standpoint. Like I did hot fusion yoga yesterday, and I remember years ago doing it and even going, well, I don't know, should I take my shirt off? Like in a way, but then if I did take my shirt off, it was because there was a cute guy or something,
Mm-hmm.
or it was always up in here. And
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, you go in for this healing, wonderful experience of yoga, you're taking care of your mind, your body, your soul, and yesterday I was like, I had a wife, well, I hate to call the name of it. It was a white tank top. I don't want to call
Mm-hmm.
the name.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember yesterday, I just freely just took it off because we were sweating so much. And I just felt so in love with the moment. And I
Mm.
felt so proud of myself, but from a healthy, whole, I'm alive, healthy place, you know?
Yeah. Can I share my version of that recently?
Of course. Yeah.
Um, the actions from the outside might look the same, of like dating someone or having sex with someone, but the internal experience of it and personal relating with somebody can be completely different. And I guess I'm saying that one of my biggest core wounds was around sexual intimacy and desiring it so much, and having a lot of it, but not actually having the intimacy part, that there was always kind of a wall
Right.
between me and the other person.
Like the
And
sex part.
yeah, it was basically like objectification. Like, I'm going to turn you into a porn, you're turning me into a porn, just to like get off. But what we both really
Like
want is like,
animalistic almost, yeah.
yeah, and animalistic can be fun if you actually have like a connection and like a bond with the person. But
Mm.
this was almost like, I'm turning you into something on a screen because that's easier
There you go.
to connect with. So
Yes, yes.
so I've taken a break. I've been celibate for a while, almost a year, and just recently met someone, and we're getting to explore each other and know who each other are, and on a really deep heart on all the levels.
Mm.
And going really slow sexually, intimately, but also being intimate with each other. And in that process, I'm seeing the difference in myself, and how this old story of I can't actually connect with this person, though I want to, that's gone. And that I'm fully available, fully present, and really deeply, intimately connected with this person in a way that I truly didn't think was going to be possible in my lifetime. I really kind of felt like, well, this is just how I am, and that's not going to change. So getting to have this experience has been like, it's healed me in ways that I couldn't imagine, because I actually couldn't imagine having this type of experience. So it's pretty
That's
wild.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks.
No, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting what you said because I felt that way between the age of 35 and 40, like I mentioned earlier. I told myself many times, I think you're going to be alone. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's anyone for you. And I'm glad that you shared that because, and of course, some of the people that watch this already know this, so I won't go too in depth with it. But for the ones that haven't heard this, I felt that way. And then 2 days after my 40th birthday, on my 40th birthday, I had done that 5 years of work. And of course, the work continues. And I had a lot to clear up in my 40s. But I remember standing at the birthday party with friends that were part of my life, and some still are. And there was a couple that had an age difference, a gay couple, and they worked really well personally and professionally. They had a business at the time that was successful, and they really brought joy to people's lives. And they came to the party and gave me a red rose as a gift. They said, it's you love so much. It's your turn to be loved that way too. And I said, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm ready again. I think I'm from who I am now. So I held the rose up and I said to the universe, to my higher self, to everyone there, I am holding this rose up to now say that I am ready to bring in an
Mm.
individual that will understand, one, what this means to me, and secondly, how we can grow together from a different place than what I was, is basically what I said. And I knew what
Mm-hmm.
that meant, because I
Mm-hmm.
was being vulnerable, but I knew what it meant internally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 days later, someone that I had known 15 years before, we had a wonderful connection at the time. It was not the right time, and we had all this growth we had to do on our own, and we reconnected, and now we've been married 9 years and together 11
Wow.
years in October. So I want to applaud you, and I'm excited for you, and thank you for sharing this. And this is what this is about for anyone that's watching. Life can be an incredible journey of wonder and growth and joy and intimacy and love and expansion if we step out of the story of what we're not anymore, or
Yeah.
what we want to clear through. Like you said, we do have to do the work, and I've had to. And it's up and down. It's like our
Yeah.
relationship's wonderful, it continues to grow. We evolve together, but it's still work. It's two souls meeting each other in intimacy, clearing up more together, individually
Right.
and collectively. You're saying yes.
Yeah. It's, you said that perfectly, because I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but the saying yes part really showed up. So I met this person at a Radical Fairy gathering.
Oh, cool.
Have you heard of the Radical Fairies?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
No.
look into them. Um, and I really didn't want to go because I had some preconceived ideas of what those environments were going to be like, and it just didn't really feel like it was going to be aligned. But anyway, a friend basically dragged me there. And so I went and let myself be open to the experience. And this guy also didn't want to go. It was his first gathering, and he ended up showing up. Um, and in every morning there's heart circles, and so whoever wants to stands in the circle of 50, 100 men, and just shares whatever there's on their heart in the moment. And I had shared,
Wow.
just like the day after, like connecting with him, I had shared that I'm letting go of this story, that I have barriers and walls to love, and that I'm truly ready. And so this has been um, an unfolding with this guy, in which he, like, it's been very fast, and he invited me to come to his home after the gathering, and so I did. And I was driving there, and I was going, what am I doing? I really don't even know this
Right,
guy, but it feels great. And
right.
a song came on that was like a mantra of, like, say yes, say yes, say yes, the song that I was listening to on my and so I just kept, as I arrived at his house and felt uncomfortable, I was like, yes. Another uncomfortable moment, yes, yes, over and over and over. And what's unfolding is like something that quite possibly could be a very beautiful partnership. So I'm hearing from you, as you, that yes, that is another nod from the universe.
I think so. And that's what's beautiful about synchronicity. And I think, even though there's a lot of division in our society right now, or especially in our country, there's also a lot of people coming into their own. There's a lot of people, and I question sometimes if I want to call it waking up, because there's a lot around that too. But in my
Mm-hmm.
perception, it is. It's people having that moment of, they're waking up to who they are themselves,
Mm-hmm.
realizing all that we're talking about. Whether, especially, I see it within the queer community too, and it makes me extremely happy,
Mm-hmm.
because we all are worthy of that. And something that you said, well, first of all, I want to celebrate you, and I'm glad you're saying yes. And that's the whole thing, as many of us can. But I also want people to realize, whether you're in relationship or not, let's say you're at a really good place with yourself, yet you still are like, I don't know if I want that, or I don't know if I'm ready still, or maybe it hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said, though, in one of your videos, and it made me really excited to see this, Rio, is that the video about homos are healers.
Mm-hmm.
and that we do have purpose within that. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because
Mm-hmm.
I have really opened myself up to that, to realize that I think we collectively and individually have been given many gifts, I think, within our community, the queer community,
Mm-hmm.
gay men. We'll talk about gay men right now. And I feel that way. I feel that we're able to, once we clear some of this away, and we say yes to our true authentic selves, and we're wanting that and desiring that, we open up to it. It's like, oh my gosh, maybe exactly who I am is the healer. I heal
Mm-hmm.
myself, and in return can help others mirror back to say, I can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we think of healers, it's not like I'm going to, well, there's different perceptions around it, but my perception is it's not that I'm coming and healing a pain, literally putting my hand and taking the pain away from you. It's that I'm able to say, look at what I've become now with the work I've done.
Mm-hmm.
We all can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have, and tell me if you agree, but I feel that we as a community, when we open to that, have such a, we're in touch more with our femininity if we allow ourselves to be. It's naturally who we are. Yet many of us have pushed that away and gone over to the other side, even in our community, to prove I'm macho, and I'm hot, and I'm buff, and that's great if that's what you're into. Whatever, be your best self. But I think when we kind of neutralize into the middle, and bring the femininity back in, which is natural for us, and then heal the masculine side of it. It reminds me of the symbol that you have, kind of like the infinity sign,
Mm-hmm.
and you have one that's a little larger on one side.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine the balancing out of that within who
Mm-hmm.
we are. I feel that we have an easier way of doing that once we're aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so much in what you said.
I know there was a lot there.
I'll start with this as like, the healer part being the reason I'm making videos specifically on this topic is because it's things that I actually literally searched for when I was deep in a place of like needing some inspiration and feeling some like bits of like, yeah, what am I all about? Why am I different? And there were some people that I found that helped and gave some guidance, but it was very hard to find. And so I'm just out here adding my voice to say, it's not just what we're running away from. It's not just the pain. There's there's something to look toward instead of, because so much of like gay male history has been focused on, rightly so, the struggles and the challenges, but so much so that it often becomes the main story of our community. And I would really like to see that the main story of our community is who we are and what our gifts are and what we're here for, rather than like all of the drama and pain. That's not who we are. That's like, if we allow it to be, that's like the ignition for the fire to burn and for us to really be able to shine brightly. It's not the whole story. That's just the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so if we can allow ourselves to move through the process of the pain and not then be stuck in the loop of being a victim. And I know that sometimes that pisses people off because I've experienced things that I actually was a victim of something. So I know that, and I don't want to carry that story around anymore, because it doesn't, like, yes, I experienced that, and I needed to acknowledge that I was a victim, and I needed to acknowledge that there were horrible things that happened, and to feel all those feelings. And then there's something more, right? You can't get stuck. Well, people do, but I could not stay stuck in that story of victimhood, because I knew there was something more and something beyond that. And that's why I talk about purpose that we have, is that there is something so beautiful and special and bright and magical about each one of us. And it doesn't mean that we actually have to like go do healing work like maybe you and I are doing. But that can be anything, right? Like I can have a conversation with a friend and I'm not being the healer in that moment, but by being who I am and seeing from the perspective that I have, and having empathy and compassion and joy, that I can be someone who is a beacon of light or hope for that person. um and so it doesn't mean that we have to like change our careers and that we, every gay man is a shaman. But
Right.
that but that energy is there, it's within us, and we get to express it however we want in whatever field and whatever relationships we want.
Yes. Oh, that was beautifully said. Thank you. And it's like an example that I can give it to right now is when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I did some drag and I did a whole project. It was a Wonder Woman project. And then, but that's when I was really going through a lot and struggling, didn't know who I was, the unworthiness, the past, the shame, the guilt, outside proving and validation. And so I gave it up. Well, just this year, I revisited drag again for a project and for a show. And I made a post about it because it was the person I am now to when it was, both in drag, of course, different ages. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
difference of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what I'm trying to say is what you said is, even that as a healer, as a drag queen, in the sense of showing who you are
Mm-hmm.
from more of an authentic, joyful place of saying, here I am, world. I truly finally have found that love for myself,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what I was told or not told. And the feeling of it was like, you don't have to give up any of that. Or
No.
maybe it would be a person for the first time that did drag because they always wanted to, and now they feel like they can do it and they can be who they are.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you don't have to sit in a Buddhist temple, or you can, or you can do a little balance of both. I like a mixture of both. I
Yeah.
still like to have the fun that I always enjoyed, but from a healthier place for who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten so much joy from drag queens in my life. I'm so thankful that drag queens exist, and they're not
Totally.
like taking themselves seriously and going into healing spaces and practices and modalities. They're just like being full on, and I've gotten so much inspiration from them.
Mhm. Right. So that right there can be a purpose, right? That can be
Mm-hmm.
a purpose too. And if you think about, this is a little bit of a tangent, but if you think about RuPaul, you think about, and I actually talked about him recently to a friend of mine because what I found so interesting about him is that pop culture, success story, Hollywood, RuPaul's Drag Race franchise, and all of it, and but at the same time, he's worked on himself spiritually. He talks
Mm-hmm.
about how who we can be of loving ourselves, and right,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? But simple things yet powerful things that the community has taken with themselves, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these individuals that want to be drag queens that come on the show, they not only get to shine who they are, but they learn along the way if they're open to it from his wisdom and from
Mm-hmm.
what they see back on that screen. I used to think reality television was, for the most part, I had my own judgment around it. Well, it's promoting this and it's doing this and it's this and it's chaos, and it doesn't have to be that way. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a blend of, he has the kind of the best of both. He's got the public life that he keeps somewhat private, and he's a success in that arena. Yet he's been true to himself, and I've seen so many of these drag queens be such lights after
Mm-hmm.
they're on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and they wake up to that through what they see and what they experience. And I think that's part of what we're talking about, Rio. It's whatever, who you be, the best version of who you are, and from there the healing occurs, the joy occurs, self-forgiveness. And then, like, you're talking about this new potential relationship, you know who you are now, and now you get to experience that with somebody else, and you get to grow together if you choose to continue on this journey. And yeah, there'll be ups and downs like everyday life, like we
Mm-hmm.
go through individually. But
Mm-hmm.
once you have that authenticity and that communication and that understanding based on awareness, then everything is so much better. Like you said, the intimacy, something
Mm-hmm.
that you maybe never experienced before, right?
Yeah.
And I felt that way up until my husband Paul and I reconnected, which I thought was so interesting that 15 years goes by and we reconnect. It was like divine timing, as I call it.
Yeah.
But you have to also, I had to say yes, because there were fears and
Right.
there were stories, because we have an age difference. So we went into, well, what about the age difference? Or what about this? Or what about that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we have a gift in front of us. Are we going to go for it or not?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah. And I think, I'll just use that last phrase that you used and say that that's about all of us, right? We all have a gift in front of us, and
Yes.
we there are things that we know about ourselves that are our gifts, or things, at the very least, things that we're slightly interested in, or that we could do all day long without getting paid. It's just like that light us up, that bring us energy, that someone at some point has reflected, you're good at that, or that's a part of you. We all know that there are things within us that we can foster and bring into the world, and that is the purpose, right? So it could be, I love children, and so I want to have children and be a stay-at-home dad. That is a huge gift. That is a purpose. Like, absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be something that seems like it's changing the world or puts you on the map. It can be quiet, simple things that are your purpose.
I agree. And I'm finally at that place in my life. I shouldn't say finally, but I feel that way. I've in an exciting place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really realize that anything I do now is valuable if it
Mm-hmm.
means something to me, and
Yeah.
it's purposeful within what I feel and think. And so, like, it used to be, even talking to someone like you, even 5 years ago, I might have turned it into this whole, like, it has to have this many views and it has to be seen by these people and it has to get me here and it has to go somewhere outside of an inspiring conversation that someone hopefully will see and possibly create a spark within themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I'm at in my life now. And that's where, even like being led to your video on YouTube, which anyone here watching this now, I will have links so you can connect to Rio and his wisdom and his intention and his journey. But it was like, here it was, and it was like, thank you for the reminder, Rio, because that's how I've been feeling. And I think once we start to put that out from authenticity, purpose, healing, and joy, excitement, joy, like, oh my God, it's an adventure, because there's freedom in that. There's
Mm-hmm.
freedom. And I think many of us have felt, at least I felt chained for many years. I
Yeah.
felt literally like I had energetic handcuffs on, especially around here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they started to break open, it was like heart chakra, like activate, like, remember the Super Friends, like
Yeah.
twins activator,
Yeah.
what it felt like, you know?
Well, and
And I
that's
think
when,
it's wonderful what you do.
thank you. I mean, that openness, like arms open, is also then when we get to receive, right? We're giving, but that's when we get to receive. So we can get in that stuck place of the victim story, which is like, I'm not getting anything, so why the fuck would I give the world, like
Right.
I see those comments. There have been some comments from people on YouTube videos that I put out that are not, I don't take it personally. It's where that person is in their life. And I, as I read those comments, I think, oh, wow, that person is really in pain. And I understand that, but it's that the story of like, well, what has the world given me? Why do I need to give to the world? That kind of thing. And what it really is balance. And it is that infinity symbol. It is the balance of like, okay, when I open my arms to give, then I'm also opening my arms to receive. And it is the law of the universe that I cannot be out of balance. So when I give as much as I can, then I'm going to receive so much. It's like that waterfall again. I'm going to receive so
Yeah.
much, and it's just I become the channel and the safe space for the universe to go, oh, you're open to helping other people heal. Okay, here's everything that you need to continue with the energy that you have, and to expand and to give more and to be brighter. So yeah, that's just was a thought as I saw you open your arms.
Oh no, I love that. And I think that's everything that we've been talking about that has led up to this conversation like this, is that it's saying yes, it's making a choice, saying yes, and realizing that we're much more of what was, or what the story is or was,
Mm-hmm.
because we can always recreate and rewrite a new story for ourselves. And the thing that's beautiful about it now is, yes, there's a lot out there on the internet, social media, YouTube, whatever, TikTok, but there's also all this connection and this magic and individuals like you and myself and I'm not like going, oh, I'm so amazing. What I mean is, there's what you look for sometimes is what you get, is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say. Is, and if you're looking for the negativity, if you're looking for the victimhood, if you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
the less than worthy kind of energy, then I think that's what you're going to get, right?
Yeah,
But if you start to open yourself up, like you said again, to I want it differently, I'm choosing differently, and it might be scary and it might be hard, and it
it
is going
is
to be hard.
scary.
Most of the time, it is.
It is
I'm
always
not going to tell
scary.
anybody that it's just a light switch,
Yeah,
right? It's not.
it's always
It's like
scary.
here what I have. It's like the butterfly always reminds me. A friend gave this to me, and I think of the transformation of how there's layers and levels, but once you decide to begin transforming for yourself, whatever that means, then it's like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon, as we always hear and talk about. But then it's like you're free. And
Mm-hmm.
you can go around and even pollinate different areas, but
Uh-huh.
from a whole place. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of coming from like a low, dark place of I'm not worthy, of course it's not working out. Now it's working out, and if it doesn't, what's next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No risk.
Yeah, well, I really want to thank you for being here today, and thank you for saying yes to me. I mentioned to you this off camera, and I want to say this publicly, is that you never know what you're going to get out there sometimes. And I think that's why people get afraid, even with dating.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? When you start to trust your intuition, and you start to release the layers that no longer serve you, and you start to listen and form that self love and self trust and self respect for yourself, then when you see something, I call it the antenna, maybe the third eye
Mm-hmm.
antenna, you go, okay, is this energy what I want to receive?
Mm-hmm.
And I gauge it more now. And so when I saw you on YouTube, I went, yes. So I reached out, but then you in return said, okay, cool, I'll receive it. I don't really know you yet, but I
Yeah,
will. And I'm
yeah.
glad you did, because this is what it's about. It really is.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, and you're like seeking people out that are maybe kind of hidden in the ethers somewhere, and spreading the message, because it's a wave that I feel like is happening in the queer community, that is happening within gay men, is this feeling of like, okay, it's kind of like an army, but like a loving army that's saying there's another way, and we want to like show that yes, all of these parts of sadness and pain and things are real and have a place, and there is more than that, and there is more than the things that you might think you're worthy of right now, that you truly are worthy of having in the near future. And look towards that instead of the pain that is maybe causing the circumstances right now.
Totally. And again, anyone watching this, that's, Rio is someone, if you feel led to work with him, you can always reach out to me if you want some guidance or have questions. But there's so many, like you said, resources, and so many of us are coming together in that, and it makes me feel grateful, it makes me feel happy, it makes me feel hopeful. And we'll just continue to do this. And I think the more we all put ourselves out there in trust, knowing that we're meant to, from how we feel, and knowing that we're worthy of it, worthy to do it for ourselves, and worthy to possibly spark it in somebody else. I keep using that word, but it really is to me kind of like a spark, right? It's kind of like that, or that aha a little bit. And it can happen. And then life becomes, even throughout all the stuff, we're human, it's human experience, but wow. I have something that I do, and many people know this, but I love to twirl like a little kid, even as an adult. It makes me feel movement and joy, and it reminds me of the happy times of my childhood before I started feeling the victimhood of my childhood. So sometimes we have to tap back into that too, right? And once we do, we can be a 50-year-old man and still have the joy of a 7-year-old.
Exactly.
And the joy's really authentic.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Rio, and thank you for everyone being here today. Know that we all have a choice, and we all can say yes, and that life can be miraculous even through the pain, even through the chaos. And let's see where the journey takes us all.
Well said. Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Rio.